The 10.2 breakdown. Too soon to hype? No, I'm extremely hyped. I'm not going to lie. 10.2 looks freaking amazing. I can't wait to get into it. All the stuff we just talked about looks great. So let's check out what some of the unpacking here that Marcelian has to say about 10.2 and what is coming.
10.2 patch breakdown. What we know so far, a lot of things to be excited about. Obviously a new zone, new raids, new customization options for everybody out there. We know what the new season 3 dungeon pool will have for Mythic Plus, and not to mention, to top it all off from the roadmap, we know that we're gonna have possibly reworks coming to Rogue and Demon Hunter.
Oh.
But let's talk about the Emerald
How do you
Dream
guys feel
and
about
the
that?
new zone that's coming in. Obviously this is pretty much from what we've seen in the reveal cinematic, everything that we have been dreaming about for our Emerald Dream, pun intended, over the course of the years. Is very green, very dreamy, very reminiscent of Val'Sharah and the Druid class
Yeah, it
hold
looks
in
great.
Legion, and it's thematic all across the round. The zone, of course, will come with its own new factions, the Dream Wardens.
If I describe what the new zone really looks like to me, like I said, it's like an Earthbound, it's an Azerothian-bound Ardenweald, right? It does very much give me like I do remember Ardenweald when I look at it, but it's much more grounded in Azerothian like aesthetic, which I love. It looks great.
which we're gonna have their own little renown system, very druidy themed, and we're gonna have rewards accustomed to that, plus with outdoor public events that are gonna be very funky into building up trees and collecting loot and all of that stuff. Of course, the new zone will happen in one part of the Emerald Dream called the
So the new zone is also giving us a couple different aesthetics. The area is basically where Farak destroyed things already. That's the new raid, so it looks like it's going to be all destroyed around it. And then the rest of it's going to be, you know, very nice, lush, beautiful land.
Aya Viscera, and the raid itself will be the new tree that we have been growing, or basically they have been growing for a while, Amir Drasil, the Dream's Hope. And of course, throughout all of this, Farak is going to assault it, both in the raid and outside in the world. A part of the Emerald Dream will be burning and in flames. And the parts of the raid that we have seen so far, like one boss room, Nimue's room, which is probably one of the first bosses from what we know, is very greeny.
It's a
The
cool looking
scenery
boss.
and the colors is super magical. I cannot wait to be in this raid because it looks
it's
fantastic.
nice.
And
Like I said, the best part about this raid is the change in aesthetic, right?
of all of this is sure we have
we're getting a completely new look, and you know, like I said, the Vault of the Incarnates and Aberrus had very cavey, you know, dungeony feels, and they were fine. They were cool in their own right, but I didn't want more of that. I wanted something different now, and this is like the complete opposite. Now we're going full forest, lush green. This raid so far, from what we've seen, looks beautiful.
it looks fantastic. And the kicker of all of this is sure we have very druidy and foresty themes for the raid, but a section of the raid, the latter section most
this is
likely,
cool.
is very Firelandsy themed. Not only
Yeah,
is
so part of the raid is going to have been already destroyed by Farak, and that part of the raid is going to give you a very fiery dungeon, Firelands feel, which is cool. So we're basically getting two different aesthetics in the same raid.
is it very Firelandsy themed. We
can't believe we're
actually
fighting
have
the
a
Fire Lord,
Firelands
too.
portal inside the Dream, and with the Firelands portal, we actually have the
Oh,
Druids
shit.
of the Flame coming
I
back.
didn't realize
Obviously,
that. The Firelands portal is going to be inside the Dream. That's why they're... so that's where all the
portal,
Druids
we
of the
actually
Flame are
have the
coming
Druids
from.
of the Flame coming back. Obviously, they're gonna play a part in the story of the Emerald Dream, and the dream will of course culminate with Farak. But that's not it. The raid itself actually adds a couple of really cool things. First of all, for the first time, we will be able to dragon ride inside the raid in combat.
Yes, a
From what we
dragon
know so
riding
far, very
fight.
little, by the way, because this is not everything that we have that's been revealed yet. The PTR is not up. We will fight in combat with the boss.
So if you're in a full-blown 30-man raid, you were going to have 30 dragons flying on the same... That might be crazy. It'll feel like chaotic. But I think this is cool that they're trying to do something different and give us dragon riding in a boss fight.
And we've had really neat and interactive combat phases before in the past, where we've had underwater fights with bosses and things like that. So we'll see exactly how this plays out, because we will have to be dragon riding across the room from what we've seen, collecting power-up Emerald Dreamy balls and dodging the fiery balls, which are obviously bad
Flying to
because
the
fire
balls.
is bad in 10.2. Before we get to the last boss, which is obviously Farak, Druids Rejoice will uncover a new Druid customization customization options, which from what we know so far from the leaks and all of the stuff that they have on their press website, is a Moonkin form, which is obviously, thank God, finally druids can actually customize their boomkins, which is fantastic.
That's cool.
This is a
Customize
druid patch.
your
Hopefully we
boomkins,
can do
nice.
more than just the Moonkins, because we have seen some interesting druid forms all throughout the patch with some new bear skins that are also how the new world boss
These look great. These look so good.
is going to be, like a big, stony, foresty bear. Not to mention, because the druids of the flame are going to be involved, hopefully we're going to have an upgraded version of the fiery cat model that we have been using since Cataclysm. And the big kicker is that in this raid, we're
By
going to
the
have
way,
the legendary...
it was already confirmed. There is an upgraded cat form. There is an upgraded flaming cat form. That is true.
using since Cataclysm. And the big kicker is that in this raid, we're gonna have the legendary weapon, the legendary weapon that has been confirmed to be a two-handed axe. Most likely a strength axe. I don't know if it's also gonna have agility so that it can be used by specs like survival and things like that, but most likely it's going to be strength. And from what we know from the dev interview that, you know, essentially they had on their website, the axe will be unlocked as a progression style system. So hopefully they will do away with the RNG that evokers had.
So it's not going to be a drop. It is going to be some kind of like quest or something. Interesting.
Go through in 10.1, which was atrocious, 10.1.5 rather, and they can be, at least the legendary can be more attainable. Plus the axe looks amazing. The fact that that's actually Farok's axe is kind of not yet confirmed, but more than anything confirmed is that this will drop from Farok.
It is now. It is confirmed. This axe will be used by Farok in the fight, and in fact, there's like two versions of it we talked about. There's the flaming version, and then there's another version when he enters like a shadow flame mode in the fight, and this thing becomes all purpley and badass.
The last boss of the raid. And for all you Mythic Plus fans, what we know so far is just the dungeon pool. Of course, we're gonna have the Dawn of the Infinite's wings that are now available as heroic wings in the same version as Mythic Plus, which has been the case over the past couple of expansions with all the mega dungeons that they have released. Plus, the new dungeon pool has been revealed. That's enough of the Dragonfly dungeons. We will have two BFA dungeons from Atal Dazar and Waycrest Manor. Atal Dazar is so good.
Why did they pick the two worst ones? Why did they pick the two worst? I hate both of these dungeons. Ah, damn it. As a tank, they're the worst ones because, like, the path is so random. Like, you just go in any which direction. Obviously, there's going to be an optimal path, but I just hate them. And, like, Waycrest Manor fucking gives me claustrophobia. I hate being in that place.
Waycrest Manor. Atal Dazar is so good. That's such a bright dungeon, and we definitely need that gold back. Waycrest Manor has a lot of mixed feeling behind it, and we're also gonna have two Legion dungeons in Darkheart Thicket and Blackrook Hold. Darkheart Thicket probably was chosen because it has very tight connections to the Emerald Dream. It's, you know, in the Emerald Nightmare, let's say, although it's just Legion story, it kind of makes sense to be added in this patch more than anything, while Blackrook Hold is just a really, really cool dungeon. And last but not least, we will have one Warlords of Draenor dungeon, Everbloom, kind of still in the vein of nature feely foresty stuff. Everbloom is also a mixed feelings dungeons because it has some weird mechanics that I don't know how they scale in Mythic Plus. And speaking of, maybe the most controversial dungeon will be the Thrones of the Tides from Cataclysm. Yes, the second Cataclysm dungeon. We know that Vortex Pinnacle has went through a plethora of changes, both in artistic graphical representation and in also in the mechanics. So likely Throne of the Tides will have to go through a bunch of reworks of its own, but this is as much as we know. Once they are up on the PTR, we will test them and report back to you. And the patch will come with everything else that you might expect. New dragon riding glyphs and one new ability that will make it easier to accumulate the vigor resource, new dragon customizations, both as a PvP reward and a full dragon transformation that we have seen that looks very closely like Farok, most likely a reward from actually doing the raid.
Yeah, we know now that this version of Farok, the Shadow Flame version, is actually going to be given to you for AOTC, which is freaking amazing. This is one of the best looking AOTC mounts that we've gotten. Way better than the Crab Boy that we got, the freaking Crab Boy that we got in Shadowlands. Likely a reward from actually doing the raid and essentially killing Farok, which is fantastic. Yay for that. Plus a new dragon as a dragon riding option, which is the Fairy Dragon, which we have seen very little of. Fairy Dragons definitely make sense for Emerald Dream. Usually Fairy Dragons are kind of tiny, so we'll see how they will actually work as dragon riding. But in speaking of dragon riding, Farok, the boss of the raid, will also reward you with, from what we know, a Fire Owl. I know Mr. Jim pointed out in his video, that is the first It's the mythic. It's the mythic mount, and yes, it is the first non-dragon riding dragon riding mount.
dragon mount has been released that can also dragon ride and ideally normally fly in outside
Mythic raid
zones,
drop.
which is the first of many hopefully mounts that can transcend into dragon riding flying system. And it goes without saying that we'll have new dragon races and all sorts of horns and colors. The netherwing drake that we had from the trading post also will get its own customizations, which is obviously fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah,
and so far
great.
the story related to the Emerald Dream has been pretty cool, with the added bonus that Rathian and Vernoth will go looking out for new help in terms of other dragon flights. Does this mean that Vernoth is now an ally? I guess we'll have to see. It's kind of mostly confirmed, but they will be going to Outland to
the quest line ended with Viranov walking with Alexstrasza into the orgy room, into the dragon orgy room. So I mean, they're gonna get it on. I mean, she's on their side now. Whether she doesn't agree with them, but it's like the enemy of my enemy is my ally. She thinks Farak has lost his mind, so now she's teaming up with Alexstrasza to defeat him. She doesn't trust Alexstrasza yet. She probably will by the end, but they're getting together.
But they will be going to Outland to recruit the Netherwing Drake that we know have been farming for years to get the rep and get the drakes from, and the Storm Drakes from Stormheim. Likely these will come in more forms of dragon mounts in the future.
The Storm Drakes are great.
And
I hope we get some.
Last but not least, the
like
roadmap that they've just shown at the end of the video that they haven't talked about has the last text on it with class talent updates for Rogue and Demon Hunter. People have been asking for reworks for Rogue for a long time, and although it's not worded as a rework, most likely due to the multiple issues that rogues have, it will likely be in the vein of a rework, hopefully similar to paladins as well. Not to mention demon hunters, specifically Havoc, have been suffering in both raids and dungeons from a lack of proper identity in relation to the dragonfly content, and yes, they're getting some updates as well. This is pretty amazing, and this is just the first day of the patch, with more and more to come when the PTR will be up, and we will cover that as well as we do with all the patches that you can check on our channel. Not to mention the 10.1.7 patch, that's probably a good time to come back into the game, and we have covered that as well on our channel, and you can watch it right here.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, all in all, the patch in general, it's a lot of content. It really is. It's a lot of content, and it looks freaking amazing. Aesthetically, completely changes up the aesthetic in terms of raid and the Emerald Dream. I mean, that's an old Azerothian lore that we're finally going to get to explore. So I'm excited for 10.2.